Hi, everybody, and welcome. My name's Eric Altman, and I'm a sales engineer here at Vodia. We're going to go ahead and talk today about provisioning the Polycom phones on the Vodia PBX. We've had other webinars. I think we talked about Cisco last time. This time we're going to talk about Polycom and how to provision that a couple of different ways. So let me get over here. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about the supported devices and features. Talk about resetting the Polycom device. It's pretty much the same, but we'll talk about it for the sound points and the VVX. Preparing secure provisioning, getting the firmware or providing the firmware, basics of logging into the Vodia portal. We'll talk about mass deployment of password setting, prepare the account for provisioning. We'll go through some button configuration and support there. And then we'll talk about the few ways to do this, LAN provisioning. We can also provision via DHCP option 66 and also manual provisioning. And at the end of this, we'll go ahead and go through some Q&A. If anybody has any questions, when we're complete, I'll ask you to use the chat window to ask any questions that you might have. So first, the supported Polycom devices. So we do support the VVX series, and that's the 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600 series are all supported on the Vodia platform. Also, the SoundPoint IP phones, 300 series, 400, 500, 600, as well as the 4000 through 7000 series as well. All these can be provisioned through the LAN. They have encryption, we can set up buttons, and we have a SIP interop with them. So let's talk about resetting the SoundPoint device. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to turn off the device, and then you're going to get a starting application screen. You're going to press cancel. I'll take you to this welcome screen you see over here. And when you see that, you're going to press and hold down the following digits. So on the 300 models, 300, 320, 21, 30, 31, 450, and 560, what you're going to want to hold down on there is the 1, 3, 5, and 7 on the telephone keypad. So you're going to hold that down. If you're on the 301, 501, 550, 600, 601, 650, or 670, you're going to hold down 4, 6, 8, and star, or asterisk. So you're going to hold down those 4 buttons, and you're only going to release them when you see that enter password screen come up. So this one right here over on the left. For the password, you're going to use the phone's MAC address. So you just type in the MAC address. That'll be the password for that. For any of the letters, just make sure you've got that on caps lock, so those should be capitalized. Once you've done that, the phone will reboot, and after the restart, your phone will be successfully reset. And the default password at that point will be 456. That's on the SoundPoint. We go to the VVX. It's basically the same thing. I showed you a couple of different screens here, but you're going to turn off the device, and when you see that starting application screen, you're going to go ahead and press cancel again. The welcome message will come up like we saw on the last screen. On this one, you're going to press and hold down 1, 3, and 5. Again, keep those held down until you see the enter password screen come up. And same thing as we talked about with the SoundPoints, you're going to go ahead and use the phone's MAC address, using caps for all the letters in that MAC address. And again, it'll reboot, and after the restart, your phone's successfully reset. Same default password for all these Polycom devices, which is going to be 456. Next, we want to prepare secure provisioning. So Vodia does support the TLS provisioning for Polycom phones. You got to make sure you do load the complete certificate chain, including the root CA, into the PBX. And then you're going to turn on this try to provision phones securely. So that's going to be under phones and settings. You'll see that, again, just check that to the on position. Talk about the firmware. So the phone can be upgraded, the firmware can be upgraded via the phone itself. So if you log into the phone, you're going to turn on TFTP under network. So you go to network and allow TFTP right. You're going to download the SIP-LD file for your phone. So we give you the link here of where you're going to find that. And these slides will all be available after the fact, so you guys will be able to go to our website, to YouTube, and be able to see this information at any time after this webinar as well. So once you've downloaded that file into that directory, you're going to create a TFTP folder in the Vodia working directory. So talked about the phones, just to keep everything clear here. In the phones itself, we're going to the allow TFTP right, and then we're going to download that file. We're going to create a TFTP folder in Vodia's working directory. So you're going to log into Vodia and create that there. And then you're going to upload that zip.ld file into that TFTP directory. And Vodia then will update that firmware when the provisioning is in progress. So once we start provisioning the phone, the firmware will be upgraded as well, as long as you follow these instructions. And over here on the left, just a little tip on creating that for Linux users, as well as command line, what you want to put in there to create that TFTP directory. Very important that that's there in the Vodia working directory. All right, back over here. Logging into your phone system, this is basics. Hopefully everybody here on the call understands how to do this, but on your web browser, you're either going to type HTTPS and localhost, or you're going to put the IP address of the machine. So also with that secure HTTPS. Sign into the Vodia system. By default, that's going to be admin and no password, but hopefully you've went in and maybe kept the admin account, but changed the password or created a password for that. If you haven't licensed this product, you can sign up at https:/vodia.com/en/register. That allows you to register with us, and then we can get you licensed for the products. Now, before provisioning, we want to set a master password on the PBX. So you're going to be in the domain itself, so not in the admin mode, but in the domain mode. You're going to go to Advanced and General Settings, and then you're going to scroll down to Provisioning Parameters. In there, you're going to enter your dials plan scheme. For instance, if you did use 3-digit extensions, you'll choose the North America 3-digit extensions. There are other options here. Basically, that's for your dial plan to go in there. And then you're going to go ahead and create that password that's going to be the master password on the PBX. We want to prepare the account. So in order to provision to the correct extension, Vodia is looking for that associated MAC address that's assigned to that extension. So if you choose an extension, so now again you're in the domain mode, you open up that extension and you navigate to provisioning. There'll be this menu across the top. Pick provisioning, and we want to choose TLS as your default transport. And then where it says bind to MAC address, you're going to hit that plus sign. You're going to enter the phone's MAC address and choose the correct phone series and model number of the phone, and then click add. So once you've done that, Vodia is going to create a button profile for that specified phone. And once that button profile has been created, you can assign your own personal button scheme. You can create defaults, we'll talk about in a second, but every phone on the system can have a different personal button scheme as far as which button does what. The supported buttons for Polycom series, so you can have your private lines, you can have a voicemail button, a prefix allows you to add a digit to the beginning of the string if you need to do that. You've got your agent login button as well as log out. BLF, so presence, pickup, speed dial. BLF is like a universal button, so it does a bunch of different things. A park orbit, so if you want to park calls, and then a group pickup button. So if there's a call coming in for the group, you're able to pick up that through the group pickup button as well. So now that you've put in the phone's MAC address on the extension, you can configure the buttons. As an administrator, like I was just saying, it's best to build a template in the domain, and that's going to be in the domain itself. You can see this picture right here. So you're in the domain. You're going to go down to Advanced and then to Buttons. And there's where you can create that default button profile for the phone. And the nice thing about having that default profile is you can then instruct the PBX to use that default template when it's available under the extension button. So rather than creating a new button profile for everybody. Maybe a lot of those phones are just going to use the same default profile. So that's why it's a good idea to set that up so that you have that as an option rather than going in and configuring every button for every phone. And you can see here, you can see this phone. You're going to hit the setup here, go to the buttons, select the MAC address and the phone, and then you can use that default model template when available. So if you've created that, it will be available, and you'll be able to use that. And here's what the templates look like themselves, where you can assign, private lines, assign those BLF keys, whatever you need to assign in the buttons. But that's a big thing because, Polycoms work on other systems as well, but in a lot of cases, you're not able to configure all the buttons that are available and all those features, whereas on the Vodia system, you can. So phone discovery. So power up your device, and the phone must be reset, which is something we talked about right at the beginning. So you've reset that phone. Once you power up the device, Vodia will be able to detect the device on the customer's LAN. So you're going to go to phones. You'll be in the admin mode in this case, not the domain mode. You're in admin mode. You go to phones and LAN devices, and then you should see all the phones that Vodia has detected on the LAN at that point. You click on the setup button over here on the right, choose the extension you'd like to assign that desktop phone to. So you've got the domain as well as the extension here, and once you've done that and saved it, the phone will automatically reboot and restart, and it'll register that phone with the assigned buttons. So one easy way to set all that up. Now we can also provision the Polycom phone over the WAN, through DHCP option 66. So Polycom supports option 66 or option 160. I mean, those are options in your DHCP that allow it to see the actual IP address of the server as well, the TFTP server that is your Vodia PBX. So we support that as well as Polycom. You would put that option in. We've got an example here of where you might set that, but basically that's going to be set in your DHCP options, assuming you guys would know how to set that. There are all kinds of options you can set in DHCP. You want to pick 66 or 160. And you want to make sure the phones are in factory default mode at that point. So add the phone's MAC address to the designated extensions, and you're going to go ahead and do that here. And then if you go to provisioning, we did pick TLS. We put that MAC address in there, and then you choose the extension you want to provision by selecting the open accounts for MAC-based provisioning. So you'll see that underneath those extensions. You go ahead and check. We're going to set up Jack Benson because we're going to open the accounts for MAC-based provisioning, and that'll open it up so that it can see the MAC addresses for a limited amount of time for security reasons. But that's basically what you're doing here, is you're allowing it to be provisioned via its MAC address. Reboot the phone, and once it reboots, it'll redirect to the Vodia platform for provisioning. Provisioning is complete, and at this point, the phone should be registered and ready for operation. And then, I thought there was one more screen here. Just back to this one, I didn't mention this screen over here, which just basically says how this all works. It's reading the MAC address from the phone, which is entered into the Vodia system, and entering the provisioning URL and DHCP as option 66. Like I said, once you choose that option, it knows what the Vodia IP address is. The phone's going to get provisioning URL automatically at startup. It's going to request that config file from Vodia, and then Vodia is going to send that config file to the phone. So just a little graphic of how it all is fitting together there. All right. So at this point, if you've done it through option 66, that would be complete once it reboots and registered and ready for operation. We can also do manual configuring of the phone. That is a possibility. So we've got a few different options here through the LAN discovery, through DHCP, option 66, or just manually. And manually provisioning this would be going into the phone, again, logging into the phone, not the PBX. You're going to navigate to settings and provisioning server, set type to HTTP or HTTPS, and then you're going to enter that Vodia IP or URL. So basically you're putting in the server address. So this way we're going into the phone and we're telling it what the Vodia IP address is, whereas before we did it through option 66, knew what the IP address was there. But once you've done that in here within the phone settings, you reboot the phone and you're all provisioned manually as well. And that's basically it. I hope I wasn't too fast there. Again, these slides will be available to anyone through our YouTube site as well as on our website. How do you get a license? Just the basics here. You'd sign up at that register link. That allows you to register. We'll get an email letting us know that you've registered, and we can get you a license out. We'll even do trial license for first-time registers. Licenses are now based on concurrent calls, so that's always worth mentioning since that's something new for us. I just want you guys to be aware. Being based on concurrent calls means there's really unlimited extensions, so you don't have to be as aware of your extensions with our new licensing scheme. All you need to be aware of is how many concurrent calls are going to be going on. We basically have 3 different levels, Standard, Pro, and Enterprise. Those are going to determine as far as what kind of features you have and whether they're unlimited or you have 1 or however many there are. And the way we do this is there's 2 ways to do it. So once you've decided, okay, we need a Pro, the next decision would be, is it going to be persistent or annual? And basically all that's saying is a persistent license means you're buying that license. You'll have that license forever. It's yours. You own it. An annual license means you're preferring to not buy the license, but to just pay a fee every year to keep that license going and to keep your PBX going. So there are pluses and minuses to each one depending on your budgets and different things like that. But you can choose whether you want to do it persistent or annual. And if you do choose annual, we also allow you to pay semi-annually. You can pay quarterly. You can even pay by the month if you prefer to do that. So a lot of our competition will not do that. It's a one-time cost. We let you break that up if you need to. Again, you've got the 3 different flavors here. Their chart is right here. You can access it this way, or we can send this out to you if anybody wants to have that, download that little chart. We're happy to send that out to you as well. And that's basically what I've got for you today. Like I said, if you guys open up a chat window, if you have any questions, just makes it easier than talking over each other. I'm happy to answer any questions for you now regarding the provisioning, the licensing, or any questions you might have generally on Vodia itself. You can see on the screen our sales@vodia.com. If you don't have a question now, but as soon as I wrap this up, you have that question, you can always send it to us at sales@vodia.com. We're happy to answer any questions that way or send you out any charts on the licensing that you need, whatever it is. And you can also call us on the 617-446-1399. Don't be shy. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to open up that chat. All right, don't see any questions up there. Like I said, if you do come up with any later on, don't hesitate to contact us at our sales@vodia.com. Contact me directly. I'm at extension 451. Again, my name's Eric Altman. I appreciate everybody's time today. Hopefully this was beneficial for you. And y'all have a great day. Thank you.